Hello, everybody. It's me again, Rich Andre, and today we're going to be doing episode 6 of Critical Hits, where now we'll be debating ChatGPT about multiple and variety of topics without using any sort of evidence at all, which sounds like stupidity, but that's the fun of it, that's the entertainment factor of it. So we're just going to be debating about universal healthcare. I'm just going to ask ChatGPT whether or not ChatGPT is for or against universal healthcare, and I will just continue the debate from there. And we can start right now. Okay. Hey ChatGPT, what is your stance on universal healthcare? Are you for or against it? And let's debate about it. I'm just going to use my common sense on you. I don't have any sources for any of the things that I say right now. I'm just going to be completely free form debating you.
Sure.
If you
So
okay,
I
go on.
can play along here. Universal healthcare is something I lean for, mostly because it treats healthcare as a basic need, not a luxury. The idea is that your ability to see a doctor shouldn't depend on your job or your wallet. It's about public stability, healthier populations, earlier treatment, and less bankruptcy from medical bills. But I'm happy to hear your take.
Okay, so my take is, you're basically just using a sort of a collectivist argument. You're arguing for the perspective of the people who are basically patients in the healthcare system. Okay, I think that there is a massive flaw to that. I think there is a massive flaw to just giving out free healthcare to everybody just because, uh, uh, regardless of their job, regardless of their financial stability. I think that is a massive flaw on the perspective of the people who are working on the hospitals. Because if you would think about that, okay, if you could really
Hmm.
imagine that, if you can really generalize that, okay, your argument. If I
Okay.
could generalize your argument, and so let's suppose there's a utopia, sort of everything is perfect. Okay, everything is perfect. There's no
Right.
such thing as paying for hospital bills. Okay, but so
Mm-hmm.
to in order to do that, uh, uh, then the doctors, the people who are working out of the hospitals, they they need to have some sort of incentive, right? Okay, they
Well,
need to have some sort of
y-
incentive in order to do that. And if
yeah.
they don't have any incentive, if the money is not coming in, if they don't have any money to sustain themselves in order to sort of do whatever they want with the money after, or whatever motivates them in order to do their job at the hospitals, how do you suppose that they will treat patients? Okay, how do you suppose they will treat patients effectively,
Okay.
supposing that they don't have any incentives? But let's say for example that in a perfect world, okay, the people who are working at the hospitals are actually gaining their incentives from some sort of program, some sort of government-based like incentive program, wherein
Okay.
they will be gaining their money completely, any incentive that they may want. Uh, I
Hmm.
think I think that would still be a flaw because then, okay, then you will cause sort of like a domino effect with the government. Now, you remove the problem off of the hospital, okay, off of the people who are working under the hospital, that regarding their
Right.
incentives. Now you're putting the problem onto the governments. Okay, well, hypothetically speaking, if you were to put a burden of sort of like the problem to the governments, then you're putting the burden to the governments. Okay,
Okay. I hear
so
you.
go on.
Yeah. There's the worry that funding comes from somewhere and it doesn't magically appear. And if the state manages it, people worry about bureaucracy, inefficiency, or slower innovation. So let me ask, do you think those practical risks outweigh the benefit of people not skipping care because they can't pay?
Well, morally speaking, or from a moral standpoint, I don't think that those risks, like slower bureaucracy processes, outweigh the sort of like the benefits of having universal health care and everybody having sort of equality when it comes to having when it comes to having the care that they need or that they want or that they are entitled to. But I'm just being really realistic here. If you think about it, you have to consider everything. You have to consider everything
Yeah.
from funding, from the incentives, from the people who are working themselves. Okay, so if there
Mm-hmm.
is more people, okay, yeah, let's just use our common sense here. If there are more people being subject to healthcare, and these people don't have any money to sort of pay the doctors, or because now they're in this perfect world, this utopia we're in, healthcare is available for everybody. Well, then the people who are working under the healthcare system are going to be very impoverished. You know, both financially and both physically, because if you think about it,
Okay.
healthcare revolves around a lot of hours. You know, they have to work a
It
lot of hours.
does.
They have to work for days. They have to work for literally graveyards. They have to endure literal graveyard shifts, and then you pile on
Mm-hmm.
top of that a lot more people. Okay, a lot more people
Mm.
who are,
I hear you.
who are being pushed in who are being treated, who are supposed to be treated as patients, uh,
Hmm.
because if healthcare is free, then obviously people are going to get better healthcare, go to
That's a
hospitals
fair
more often.
concern. Under universal health care, the burden doesn't disappear, which means the design really matters. Some systems keep private options alongside public ones. Others invest heavily in training and in better staffing ratios to ease that workload you mentioned. It's not a binary like free for all versus status quo. The real question is, can a society structure it so doctors and nurses aren't crushed while patients also don't go untreated? That balance is the hard but doable part.
So how do you think that's doable? Like, what practical steps are you thinking of in order to make such a sort of absurd concept doable? No offense.
Let me check on that. One sec. Yeah, the criticism you're raising is valid, and any policy proposal has to answer it. The strongest version of the pro side isn't healthcare is free. It's you prepay through taxes or insurance pools instead of getting bills at the hospital. So the doable part usually means stable funding, expanding the workforce so more doctors and nurses are trained, and capacity planning like more clinics, not just hospitals. Plus, fair but not unlimited care. It doesn't erase tough choices, but it can move the stress away from individual patients onto collective management, which is messy, sure, but not impossible.
Well, I first want to debate about I just first want to argue about the point that you raised. You said you wanted to, you said you think that there's a practical step in order to sort of have these equalities, in order to have these equalities to basically prepay taxes in order to pay hospital bills. And I think that's
Correct.
I think that would be absurd, because if you think about it, okay, if you think about it,
Yeah.
if you're going to prepay prepay hospital bills through taxes, then you could safely say that those taxes that you're paying, okay, are going to be a lot
Mhm.
higher, because now you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want and go to healthcare. You get your healthcare sort of sorted out. Okay, like you could go.
Mhm.
Well, okay. Let's suppose that you are had a car accident. You broke your tibia. You broke your shin. Everything from the lower
Mhm.
your lower extremities are broken. How do you suppose you fix that?
Right.
You, of course, you're going to get
So,
surgeries. Okay, of course, you're going to get surgeries. Of course, you're going to treatment. Treatment. Of course, you're going to get inpatient health care in the hospital. Okay, so that's going
right.
to cost you a lot. It's going to cost you a lot. So how do you think?
So,
If you're going to pay taxes in order to cover those hospital bills, then how are you going to pay for extreme cases like that? You have to pay a lot more taxes in order to sort of cover
right.
those. Okay, so if you're thinking that they sort of these taxes that prepay hospital bills, okay, that should prepay hospital bills, these taxes are sort of collective, or and come from a lot of people, or come from the general entirety of the nation.
Ah,
Uh, there's a problem with that because if you think about it, not everybody can pay those. Not everybody,
right.
not everybody can pay those, right? So there are a select number of people who cannot pay the prepayments for potential hospital bills through taxes.
Mm-hmm.
There can even be people who are actively evading taxes. So how do you suppose you can fix that?
Checking on that. Yeah, well, that's one of the toughest pressure points. There's no magic answer, but I can tell you the usual framing. We either pay more predictably through taxes or insurance premiums, or we pay unpredictably when disaster strikes. If the worry is, will taxes be too heavy? That's a legitimate trade off debate. It becomes about what we value more: individual cost responsibility or shared protection from catastrophic bills. That's the core of the debate we'd have.
Okay, so that's going to be about it for this debate. I want you to give me your verdict. Who do you think
Okay,
won this? Who do you think just won this debate? And give me a fair criticism on both sides, and don't be biased. Okay, don't be biased at all. Don't be just be neutral. Just be as neutral as possible, and then we can enter from there.
sure. You argued effectively on incentive problems, tax burden, and workforce strain. Strong points. I focus more on access and risk pooling. So, a neutral take is neither side won. You pressed the implementation challenges well, and I stressed the access benefits. What remains is the values question: how to balance cost responsibility with protecting people from financial ruin when they get sick. That's the heart of it.
Nak, disconnect ko yung phone ko.